Hello, this is Miss Schrader. Today we are going to be talking about some of the artwork of the artist Paul Cezanne. My students, you're going to need a piece of paper and something to write with. You're going to take notes, and when you're done, you're going to give me at least 10 sentences about what you found interesting, educational, and important about the art of Paul Cezanne. We're going to start with this self-portrait done between 1880 and 1885. You should notice it's got a very impressionist look to it. Lots of unusual colors, different areas with things like that. Cezanne packed a lot into his life. He's referred to as a post-impressionist, whose artwork introduced new modes of representation and influenced avant-garde artists and movements in the 20th century. Remember, he was a Fauvism artist. He was also a member of the Cubist group, and so he was part of a lot of different things. He knew a lot of different artists and their families and did a lot of paintings of various people that he knew. Let's go on and continue with something else. This is one of his earlier pieces. It's called The Overture to Tannhäuser. It's the artist's mother and sister. It's from 1868. Cezanne was born in 1839. He died in 1906. So he was only 67 when he died, relatively young for dying. He lived out his life in France, though he did travel around like a lot of artists. What I want you to notice is this does have a very impressionist sort of look to it, despite the fact that the colors are very dark. What they're doing is pretty mundane. The daughter seems to be playing the piano, and the mother seems to be sewing. So very everyday stuff, which often the Impressionists really liked. This is one of Cezanne's most famous paintings. It's called Mont Sainte-Victoire. It is a mountain in the south of France near where he lived the bulk of his life. Um, it was one of his favorite themes. He came back to it over and over again, constantly changing which painting or how he was going to paint it. So there are a lot of different versions of this, but this is the most famous one. He did this between 1904 and 1906. Once again, he would have been there looking at the different shadows, getting the colors just correct, putting in thick strokes of paint so you could see that. This is oil on canvas. It is in the Musée d'Orsay in Paris. I've mentioned the D'Orsay before. It's a very famous Impressionist museum. This piece is called Curtain, Jug, and Fruit Bowl. So he's doing a still life piece. He did a lot of those as well. This is from 1893 to 1894, oil on canvas. And he really liked the idea of going with the circular shapes of the fruits, the shadows in the background. I found the texture on the wall to be very, very interesting. He likes the colors, and apparently this affected the Cubists several years later as they start looking at just chunks of a painting and things like that. This particular painting sold in 1999 at Sotheby's for $60.5 million, making it the most expensive still life painting ever sold at auction. This piece is called The Card Players. It's from 1894, 1895, and it is a pair of local Provence townspeople playing cards, probably in a bar. This is the town where Cezanne lived most of his life. He liked to get paintings of local peasants, lots of color and things like that. But this particular piece is unusual. Normally, when people show the interior of a bar, people are being pretty rowdy, maybe getting into a fight. Here we have a quiet game of cards. These two men have a bottle of wine next to them. They haven't opened the bottle. It is noted that there is a lack of drama and narration and conventional characterization. Just a couple of guys playing cards. But I do like the detail. If you look at the coats of the two men, you can notice that he varies the color, kind of going with the idea that these are old coats, that they may have some issues to them. The coat of the man on the right has a little bit of color around the collar, which makes it interesting. The table is almost abstract in its nature, and so, it's kind of different. This piece is called Three Skulls on an Oriental Carpet. And he actually did quite a few pieces in the late 1890s that seems to deal with skulls. Kind of different, if you ask me. But once again, if you look at it, it has a lot of sectionalism, which kind of tells you about cubism coming into place. There isn't a lot of color to it. We got some browns, some whites, some blacks. That's pretty much it. But there's a lot of texturing to them as well. So kind of a weird, crazy kind of piece. This piece is called Lace d'Annecy. It's from 1896. And you can see it's a landscape piece. There's a building across the way, possibly a church. But once again, he has gone with that blockiness that comes with Cubism, where he's kind of chunked things into square areas and given it just a really blocky look. And then you have the much more impressionist concept of the clouds being reflected in the water and the tree trunk having lots of detail to it. So he's really mixing a lot of different things together. It's very interesting. This piece is called Mardi Gras. He did it in 1888. Mardi Gras is the celebration season just before Lent. So if you're a good Catholic, during Lent you're supposed to give up things and be serious. Well, Mardi Gras is the partying period before that. Once again, we've got these people in these bright colored costumes, kind of clown-like costumes. The man on the right is in a harlequin costume, and the checks definitely give you a cubist idea. The curtain behind the man in the white outfit definitely has a cubist feel to it, as though everything has been chunked. Cezanne also did a lot of paintings of bathers, people going to swim. And in those days, a lot of people, when they swam, they wouldn't wear any clothing. This is one of his later paintings done in 1905, simply referred to as The Bathers. I chose it specifically because the people are not really clear to see, but you can see that there are people there. This does, once again, have that very blocky look that you get with the cubists and things like that. He died in 1906. Pablo Picasso referred to him as the father of us all. And Matisse said, a kind of dear God of painting. So the other artists really thought very, very highly of him. This is one of the latest pieces that I could find, done in 1905, just a year before he died. This is simply called A Man Seated. But once again, he looks as though it's chunked into like square pieces in which he's put various different pieces of paint. You really can't see a clear face on this person. And so he definitely is having an effect on Cubism. All right, my students, you are going to be giving me 10 sentences about what you found interesting, educational, and important about Cezanne.